Video games come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. 100-hour role-playing epics that immerse you in a story and world, action romps that get your heart pumping as you play out your Hollywood movie fantasies, complex puzzle games that push your brain to its limits, and so much more. Or maybe you throw all that out the window and spend hours just picking up some books. The cozy game revolution has been a fascinating trend to watch, as it's so antithetical to everything we typically associate with video games, and yet it has become one of the most popular genres we have today. That's why I want to explore this unique section of the industry further, and figure out what it is that people love about these games so much, and perhaps more interestingly, what that love says about us as gamers and as people. I suppose we should first start by defining what exactly a cozy game even is. Most would describe it as a video game focused on relaxation, typically without violence, where mundane tasks take center stage. Examples include life sim games like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, simulator games such as Power Wash Simulator, or just general good feel low stakes experiences like a short hike. These kinds of games are usually dominated by repetition, whether that be repeatable errands, daily login chores, or a sequence of jobs that need completing. What I personally associate most with cozy games are the idea of engaging with actions that are typically not considered fun, and yet when performed virtually are surprisingly just that. Choosing to willingly spend our limited free time after work stocking shelves in a fake supermarket makes literally no logical sense, and yet it somehow is a very good time. It seems the older I get, the more these kinds of games intrigue me, something I think is happening for a lot of people, because it's worth noting that this genre is really nothing totally new. You can go all the way back to the days of Harvest Moon on SNES to find games focused on farming or life simulation, but it seems like in the last half decade or so, these games have truly started to come into their own. This atypical concept has become quite the opposite, now dominating the industry in ways that I would bet even the creators of these games couldn't have ever imagined. Animal Crossing New Horizons seemed to be the main catalyst that really got the ball rolling, famously releasing in March 2020, right around the exact same time the world shut down. It was probably the greatest example of being in the right place at the right time in the history of gaming. In an era where life felt so uncertain, New Horizons gave players a sense of routine, something to work at and feel accomplished by while they were stuck at home. And it seems that experience opened a lot of people's eyes as to why the genre existed in the first place. Because ever since then, cozy games have been an unstoppable force, becoming more common and popular with each passing year. What might be most impressive is the way these games have broken containment and become played by many who do not even consider themselves to be gamers. I've met so many people who don't play games very often, yet they have hundreds of hours on Stardew Valley or Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Drawing non-gamers into a video game is a seriously rare and special thing to achieve, and it feels like cozy games have been able to do so better than any other. However, even with that increased popularity and wide market appeal, there are still many out there who look down on them or just don't get it. And even as someone who has played all the Animal Crossing games and spent my fair share of time with mundane simulators, I still can't always quite put my finger on why I actually like them. So let's try to answer that question now and figure out why cozy games work so well. All the way back in 2017, at a game design think tank event known as Project Horseshoe, much of what we now know about cozy games was outlined in great detail by developers in the space. Throughout this incredibly insightful report, the co-authors discuss the process of designing a cozy game, and it goes a whole lot deeper than you may initially think. I'm sure many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but for those unfamiliar, the quick explanation is that it's a psychological theory detailing the 5 tiers of human needs. Portrayed as a pyramid, elements at the bottom are considered absolutely vital. This tier consists of food, water, and sleep, aka things you would literally die without. As you move up the pyramid, the needs become more focused on life enhancement as opposed to survival. These tiers include things like friendships, self-esteem, or motivation to fulfill your true potential. Maslow's theory indicates that the lower tiers must be met first before the higher tiers can even be attempted. Because of this, most people find themselves having to prioritize those lower tiers throughout their average day-to-day life, often not leaving room to work on the more open-ended mindfulness tiers. And this is where cozy games come in. According to the developers at Project Horseshoe, cozy games are able to target those higher tiers and bring people the satisfaction they are desiring, but may be currently unable to achieve in their real life. They bring up Don't Starve, an indie game where, believe it or not, you need to focus on not starving. In that game, you must scrounge for food, scrape together shelter, and try to survive. So if Maslow's theory is to be believed, a game like Don't Starve cannot possibly fulfill the higher tiers because as a player, you are far too hyper-focused on survival. But now, think about a game like Power Wash Simulator. Your guy isn't gonna drop dead if you don't feed him. He just does the job uninterrupted all day long. This gives your brain the room it needs to feel safe and satisfied, which is when those higher tiers can start to be met. As the Project Horseshoe report puts it, cozy games give players space to deal with emotional growth and social maintenance since they are not currently worried about basic survival. Another theory they point to is Stephen Covey's management matrix from his book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This time management grid details 4 different types of tasks based on their urgency and importance. It states tasks can be urgent and important, non-urgent and important, urgent and not important, or non-urgent and not important. For those hoping to be effective with their time, they should focus on urgent and important tasks alongside non-urgent and important tasks. Meanwhile, non-urgent and not important tasks should probably be ignored altogether since they are usually time wasters. But that still leaves one spot on the grid: urgent and not important. These are tasks that feel very urgent to us in the moment, but are not really necessary to complete. And so similar to the higher tiers of Maslow's pyramid, these are the tasks that can often fall to the wayside in real life as we prioritize other things. Once again, cozy games are here to scratch that itch. Tasks in cozy games fit into the spot perfectly thanks to their more casual approach to game design. You feel like plucking the weeds in Animal Crossing is urgent, and therefore you feel satisfied doing it. But it's not actually an important task. You aren't going to lose if you don't pluck them. So what you get is the satisfaction of completing an urgent task without the stress that comes from an important one. It's all the upside without any of the downside. When outlined like this, I start to think back to what I said earlier about beginning to like these games more as I got older. I don't think it's a coincidence that these games have started to blow up so much recently, with those who grew up playing games now reaching adulthood. As our daily lives get more stressful, games like these that can give us good sensations become all the more intriguing. Sometimes after a long day, it's hard to jump into a super competitive multiplayer game or try and engage with a deep single-player story. Having these cozy games as a fallback option in those moments has been a great way for me to still get some game time in when I'm feeling this way, instead of wasting a night mindlessly scrolling on my phone. I've started to really appreciate these kinds of games, and after reading more about the science behind it, that's not all too surprising. But for those who still aren't quite sold, let's talk about what the word cozy really means. Throughout this video, I've been referring to cozy games as a genre because that's just the easiest way to describe it, and it's how most people in the gaming space recognize them. But that's actually not necessarily the case. A game like Unpacking's genre is puzzle. Europa is an adventure game. Tiny Bookshop is a management sim. All of these games have been labeled cozy by their fans, but they each play totally different from one another. In fact, Project Horseshoe specifically states cozy should not be considered the main genre, rather it should be seen as an adjective. You achieve coziness through art style, gameplay loop, or general vibe, not by locking yourself into a genre box. There is no one kind of game you must make to be considered cozy, and going in with that mindset will likely throw you off course entirely. I really resonated with this part of the report because I can very much relate. I've mentioned in a prior video that my personal comfort game is The Binding of Isaac, which is quite a funny statement since that may be one of the least cozy games ever made. It is a brutally difficult roguelike where a young child fights grotesque monsters and horrific demons with his tears while stuck in the basement as he hides from his mother who's trying to kill him. I feel like a maniac saying that's my cozy game, and yet I can't deny that I feel so at peace when playing Isaac. From Flash to Rebirth to Repentance, it's a game that's been with me since middle school. I've never consistently played any other game for that length of time, and that puts Isaac in a really special place for me. Also, because I've played it for such an ungodly amount of time, I don't have to think too hard about it. I know the items, the enemies, the paths you take, all of it. So aside from some of the really difficult parts of the game, I can basically play it on autopilot. And that allows me to shut my brain off in a way that more traditional cozy games do for others. I bring all of this up because it changed the complexion of how I view cozy games, and I feel like it could do the same for some watching this video. I think almost all of us who play games have a cozy game of our own, whether that be a cute farming game, a bloody roguelike, or just a great game you always find yourself coming back to and replaying. The outcome is the same. In the same way cozy is not a defined genre, neither are the games that can provide us with that feeling. So while it may be easy to scoff at those spending their gaming hours farming crops in Disney Dreamlight Valley, I think all of us can relate to the feeling of cozy gaming. Although I don't play games that would traditionally be referred to as cozy games all that often, I absolutely love how big this style has gotten, because I think it's a sign of how much the gaming industry has grown. The fact that games like this can not only exist, but also find large audiences is incredible. In an era where it seems like a lot of the Western AAA studios are focused on the wrong things, it's so awesome to see non-traditional games like these getting the spotlight. And the way they've been able to draw new demographics to the gaming world and grow the community is fantastic. Seeing a style like this become so popular when it would have been kind of unthinkable not all that long ago makes me really excited. It can sometimes feel like gaming has reached its limits or that there's nowhere else new to go, but cozy games tell me the opposite and give me hope that more new gaming innovations may still be around the corner. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go work my 9 to 5 in Lawn Mowing Simulator. Thanks for watching.